Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something not really different because we've done this before, but we're doing a less scripted video. It's going to be one where I'm just kind of talking about what's going on in the NBA right now, a little more laid back, and just kind of talking about what's going on. Before we get too far into it, I just want to say thank you guys. We've hit 200 subscribers. I think we're at 207 now. And I just remember a month ago, I was talking about maybe hitting 100. So the fact that we've just flown by that all the way up to 200 now is crazy. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys sticking around. It means a lot. But without further ado, the first thing I want to talk about today is a trade that happened. It's trade season in the NBA, and this isn't a big one. It's not a blockbuster by any means, but it's just a little one that involved the Grizzlies and the Rockets. And it was mainly Steven Adams going to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Victor Oladipo and 3 future second-round picks. Now, my first gut reaction to this was, Victor Oladipo still with the Rockets? I honestly kind of forgot that he was still there. He hasn't played all season, and I forgot he ended up there from the Heat, But yeah, other than that aside, my initial reaction was kind of like, well, that's kind of messed up for Steven Adams. He's out for the season, and then the Grizzlies trade him. He was like a big part of what they had going on there. But, I don't know what his relationship with the team or the front office was like. Maybe he wants to change the scenery. Maybe this is something that they kind of were both interested in. We don't know that for a fact. Maybe we'll find out something about that. We'll find out how Steven Adams feels about it in the future. Maybe. Not sure. But yeah, on the surface, especially in the short term, this is kind of like a nothing trade. Steven Adams going to the Rockets. He's not going to play at all this season. He's still hurt, but he'll be there for next year. So, assuming he comes back to at least 90% of what he was, the Rockets should have the best or one of the best backup centers in the league behind Şengün. And then the Grizzlies, they're getting 3 future second round picks, which, second round picks aren't that bad. People get good things from second round picks sometimes, or maybe they'll package them in something. But really what they get is $12.5 million in cap space because they got off Steven Adams, who's under contract for next year. And now they just have Victor Oladipo, who's only under contract for this year, and then he'll be off the books. So they'll have about $12.5 million that they didn't have before. Now, if they're looking to use that in free agency, I don't really know what they're going to do with that because, the free agency crop this season, it's not looking super good. Maybe they're looking to get Tobias Harris. I don't know. That's one of the best players out there. Klay Thompson's going to be there. I don't think they're looking to get Klay Thompson. You never know what happens with Pascal Siakam. Maybe Pascal will be on the market, but a lot of people seem to think he's probably going back with the Pacers, but maybe it just doesn't work out there. Maybe the season doesn't really go well and, finds himself on the market. But the thing that a lot of people I think are looking at for the Grizzlies is the kind of draft capital that they're getting. 3 picks, they're all second round picks, And some people say second rounds don't matter. I think they do. They're not not a lot. They're not crazy, but having more draft capital is always good for a team. And right now, with the way things are shaking up in the league, they'll probably be around the 7th pick in the draft. That's if things kind of stay the same. They'll probably be around 7 or 8. And then, I don't know how that really helps them going forward if they just draft someone at 7 or 8. From what I've heard, this draft isn't going to be that great. I've looked into it a little bit, but I'll admit I'm not a big draft guy. In the past, when I've tried to have been, I get attached to these players who just don't become anything, big K. Felder fan. If you don't know K. Felder, look up some of his highlights. But, so I kind of try to not get too invested in the draft because, I just get all these expectations about players that they usually don't live up to. But from what I've heard from people who are better about evaluating drafts, that this isn't a great draft. So whoever they're getting at 7 or 8, unless they jump up, obviously if they jump up, they'll keep the pick. But if they find themselves around 7 or 8, will they maybe try to package this pick along with maybe some of those seconds and some other first round picks and try to bring someone into their team? A Mikal Bridges might fit in nicely. Although I don't think I probably don't think that'd be enough to get him. But, something like that, just bringing someone in on the trade market, and then that cap space will be used because it's they can take in money So it's like they could send out less money and take in more money, which would be attractive for a team who's also trying to clear up cap space. It could be something to work with there. So they might not really be looking at free agency. They might be looking more at a trade, which I think might make a little more sense, but you never know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was the All-Star reserves came out today, or from my perspective right now, it was today. But also, the whole roster is out now, so we can take a look at that and just kind of see how things shook up, who got snubbed, things like that. And to me, the first thing that stands out, the glaring thing, is that neither De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis made it. And to me, that's just kind of crazy. When I try to rationalize Domantas Sabonis being on there, it's not too hard to understand why he didn't make it. Obviously Jokic is going to make it. And then on the bench, it's like Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is having a great season. The Lakers aren't great, so you could rationalize it that way. It's like, okay, the Lakers are like, the 10th seed right now, or the 9th seed. So you could say, Sabonis should be on ahead of him. But, Anthony Davis is a great player. You can't be too mad at that. And then Karl Anthony Towns, individual player, I would probably put Sabonis on ahead of Karl Anthony Towns. But when you factor in that Minnesota is the number one team in the West right now, and they've been a great team all season, it makes sense that they have two All-Stars on there, and Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. But when you look at it that way, you might kind of factor in that, they're the best defensive team in the league. That's what makes them so good. So should Rudy Gobert be an All-Star over Karl Anthony Towns? I think you could definitely argue that. And if I really thought about it, I think I might even agree with that. But, Karl Anthony Towns is the all-star kind of player. He's the scorer, great shooter, all those kinds of things. He's the kind of player you want to see in an all-star game. So that being said, as much as I think Sabonis should be on the team, it kind of makes sense why he's not. I understand it. But De'Aaron Fox not being on there is kind of crazy to me. If it was up to me, I'd probably take Devin Booker off and put De'Aaron Fox on there. Some people would say I'm crazy for that and think that I don't know what I'm talking about. But that's my opinion. I would put De'Aaron Fox on over Devin Booker. I like what De'Aaron Fox is doing this season, and they've been better than the Suns. But just personally, I would take Fox over Booker. What I really think they should do is that, so the way I see it is that the NBA's active roster size has not been 12 for years now. I think they brought it up to 13 around 2016, 2015, something like that. And now it's at 15. So I'm not saying they should expand it all the way to 15 for the All-Star game. I think that's probably too many. But I would like to see it expanded to 13. I think there's nothing wrong with that. They even did that 1 year to bring in Dirk and Dwayne Wade to have them in the All-Star game their last season. And I think that was, I don't think there was anything wrong with having 13 players on there. That way, you'd see less snubs, especially with how good the NBA is nowadays. There's so many good players that it's like hard to not have 4 to 5 snubs in each conference pretty much. But yeah, in the West, the only people that really stick out to me is Sabonis, Fox, and then maybe you could argue, Gobert, or even a James Harden. But I'm not going to go that far. I don't really care that much. And then the East, probably the biggest one that jumps out at you is maybe Trae Young not making it. He's averaging 27 and 10. But they're a pretty bad team right now. They're under 500. They're 20 and 24. So they haven't been a great team, so it makes sense why he's not on there. But, you'd probably think if there is an injury replacement to be had, Trae Young would probably be the first player in the East to get that. Just like in the West, it'd probably be Fox is probably the first player in the West who would get it, and then probably Sabonis, something like that. Actually, Lauri Markkanen didn't make it. As good as Lauri Markkanen is, it makes sense why I didn't make it. There's so many good players, and the Jazz aren't they're the 10th seed right now, so it makes sense why he's not there. But one thing that I do like in the East is Paolo Banchero making it, The Magic are having a pretty good season this year, and Paolo Banchero's been their best player. it's not that I wasn't high on him going into the season, but I was like cautious about him, that he was sort of inefficient his rookie year. But, I thought he'd be better. I thought he'd have a good season, but, he's playing really well. He's averaging 23, 7 boards and 5 assists. I wasn't sure if that, playmaking aspect would really be there in his game, but it is. And he's playing great. And I'm glad to see him make his first All-Star appearance. I think he might be the only first-time All-Star. Wait, no. Maxey. And I think this is Brunson's first appearance also. Yeah. Yeah, so Brunson, Maxey, and Banchero. 3 first-time All-Stars in the East. And everyone in the West has already been an All-Star. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards. This is his second, right? I'm pretty sure it's his second appearance. Yeah, so really overall, there's nothing too crazy with the All-Star rosters. Other than I think Fox should absolutely be on there. Obviously, I don't want anyone to get hurt, but, hopefully someone has a cold and can't play, and Fox is like the replacement. I would like to see Fox be on there. But yeah, pretty standard. Nothing too crazy. Nothing that I think really warrants getting mad about unless you're a Kings fan and De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis didn't make it. I'd be upset if I was you. Actually, I am already upset. I'm upset that Fox is not on there, actually. I was very shocked to see that. Because at first I was like, oh, Sabonis didn't make it. And then it was like 10 minutes later that I realized Fox wasn't there. Because just in my head, I was like, it was a no-brainer that Fox is on the team. But then to see that they both weren't on there, I was completely shocked about that. And one other thing that I wanted to talk about before I go is this one isn't as recent, but it's the Bucks hiring Doc Rivers as their coach. And I think a lot of people don't like this move. And I'm kind of in that camp as well. Going into it, I was thinking like, okay, the Bucks hiring Doc Rivers. It's like they fired Adrian Griffin, whatever. And Doc Rivers, he's been around the NBA for a long time. He could be like this, presence that could steady the locker room. There's probably, a decent amount of respect for Doc Rivers, just in the NBA in general from players. It's not that bad, but one thing that I was waiting to see was what kind of contract is he getting? How many years are we talking? How long are they committing themselves to Doc Rivers? And when I looked into it, I saw that he got a 4-year, $40 million contract. Now the money, I don't really care, but 4 years, committing 4 years to Doc Rivers, to me, that's just a bad move. Because in all honesty, I don't think he's going to be there the whole 4 years. I think he'll probably get fired before that. Because obviously, if you want to bring in Doc Rivers, he's not going to accept the kind of like 1-year deal, like just coach the rest of the season, like an interim head coach, basically. Which, if that was the case, I would have liked it, just bringing in a coach who knows the NBA. He's been around a long time. Just kind of try to steady the ship for the rest of this season. That, in its essence, I don't mind that too much. I wouldn't mind Doc Rivers in that scenario. But obviously, Doc Rivers isn't going to accept that kind of contract. He's too like high profile for that. So then I was thinking like, okay, maybe it's going to be like a 2-year contract where it's like this year and next year. I wouldn't hate that. But, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. But 4 years, just committing 4 years to Doc Rivers, there's nothing that really makes me think it's going to work. Now, to be fair, it just happened. I could be wrong. Everyone could be wrong about Doc Rivers not being a great coach. Maybe Doc Rivers will show us all why he got this job, why he's a good coach. He did win a championship back in 2008, but he's the kind of guy that's kind of notorious for not making playoff adjustments and not being like the best coach. He's just kind of like this like inspirational guy is kind of like what the word about him is. I haven't watched either of their games with Doc Rivers now. I know they lost both of them, but he just came into a new situation. I'm not going to be super critical about that. I think he's going to do a good job. I don't think he's going to do a great job. That's kind of what Doc Rivers has always done. He's always been a good coach. He's always gotten pretty good results. And, I think I also have to recognize maybe I don't know enough about what Doc Rivers will do for this system. Like, how is he going to change things? Obviously, it's going to take some time for them to get adjusted. So yeah, I'm trying to not be too critical of Doc Rivers right away. Let's see what we can do with this team. Let's see what they can do in the playoffs. What kind of coaching adjustments will they make? Will he do things for the better? Will he hurt the team overall? But if I'm being honest, I don't think he's going to stay around all year. Not all year, that's my bad. Throughout the rest of his contract, the 4 years. He'll be here the rest of this year, obviously. But so all the way through next season, the end of next season, they'll be paying 3 coaches, which, you know, it's an NBA team. They can afford to do that. It's not my money. I don't really care. I just think it's funny. They're going to be paying 3 coaches through the end of next year. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll eat my words on this. I don't think they're going to keep Doc Rivers around through the end of that contract. I just don't see it happening. This is the kind of thing where it's like, should they have just kept Budenholzer around? I mean, he won a championship with this team. Like, was it really that bad? But obviously, you know, it kind of felt like things needed to change. I don't know. It just feels weird. But yeah, that being said, I'm by no means an expert on this. You know, I can't really say who's a good coach and who's not. There's a lot that goes into it that I don't fully understand, that a lot of people don't fully understand. But if you've just been watching, you know, the way Doc Rivers has gone about things, you know, he doesn't make the playoff adjustments. Even like in Philadelphia, I didn't like how he kind of threw Ben Simmons under the bus. That kind of left a bad taste in my mouth for the Doc Rivers experience. But, you know, maybe he'll be great for the Bucks. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, just one last thing before I go. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know that the Mavericks are my favorite team. And I just got to talk a little bit about the Dallas Mavericks. They've been in a little bit of a skid over their last, 11 games, going 4-7. And, you know, it just makes you worry. You know, they're all the way at the 8th seed now. They're still in striking distance of, even the 5th seed. But there's, pretty much no chance of them being any higher than the 5th seed. And I don't even know if I see them getting there, you know. Luka's missed a few games here and there. Kyrie's missed a lot of time. When they are healthy and things are going well, they look like a great team. You're like, oh, with Luka on the court, I could take this team against anybody. And obviously, he just scored 73 the other day, and that was awesome. But, you know, there is some cause for concern with this team. You know, their defense is bad. Their offense is good. It's not, super elite like it used to be. And it's just very inconsistent because it's either Luka's killing it and everyone else is making their shots, or Luke is killing it and no one else is hitting their shots and they're losing. So it's the kind of thing where you're kind of like, I think this team has a really high ceiling of performance in an individual game, but I don't think they could keep it together long enough to win a whole championship. Maybe winning 1, maybe 2 rounds is the ceiling for them. And, you know, hopefully they'll be able to figure something out. I don't know if that's a trade or we'll have to just wait till next season to see what's going on. But hopefully they can figure something out to kind of get this going in the right direction. Or maybe I'm overreacting to a bad stretch. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I need to take my own advice and not be too reactionary to what just happened. They might go on a tear, and this concern will be a thing of the past. I won't even have to think about it. But yeah, overall, that's all I really had for you guys today. Once again, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you guys are having a great day. And if you're new to the channel, maybe hit subscribe or like the video if you liked it. It'd mean a lot to me. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.